the side of me. I'm a director, writer, psychologist, former naval officer. Mitch is an actor, producer, gonna be movie director. We're looking forward to see that all that happen. Um, Halo Loving Country has always been about the risks of LGBTQ people speaking out. We started out talking about just the risks, the extra risks of being in the military if you're LGBTQ. But our programs have more and more focused on just the risks of Americans speaking out in an authoritarian, increasingly authoritarian federal government. We we have touched on the shootings of Renee Good and of Mr. Petty. And we're going to come back to that a little bit today. We're going to talk about just the risks of speaking out again in a system where it might indeed be dangerous for you to do so. And I wonder about that sometimes for Mitch and I, that we have to kind of watch ourselves about what we say. Do we need to? I don't know. This is an artistic pursuit, what we're doing right now. We're trying to speak to other people, do it in a creative way so people are interested. Is that a danger to us? I hope not. I hope that hasn't happened. But if we look at what has happened, well, to our sister, I got a picture over here. Let's see if we can kind of get that. How do I get that? There's Renee. Whoops. Except she. You can kind of see her. This is the young lady, 37 years old, a poet. She was coming back from dropping her 6-year-old off at school. And I think she was monitoring ICE agents. She's been involved in protests. The ICE folks asked her to move her car. She did so. Then they told her to get out of the car. It was all a big, you probably have all seen all of this. Interesting, some of her parting words were, "I'm not mad at you." She was kind of smiling at the ICE officer, and then soon after that, she was shot to death. Seems like one of the most dramatic incidents where free expression is dangerous to you. And for an LGBTQ person, not necessarily, I don't think because she was LGBTQ, I think she just happened to be one of that group of people who were protesting, but who was actually complying. The question is now for our talk today is really about, can people in the media, can people in the arts fully express themselves in the face of a totalitarian regime, somebody who is trying to really use authoritarian techniques to suppress free speech and free expression? We know that Stephen Colbert was he's in the media, which is a creative pursuit. Mitch, can you tell us a little bit about what Stephen Colbert's been going through? And even if what you heard was, you thought maybe it was just rumor, we can call it rumor. But I mean, we can call out rumor. But we know the facts too. So if you could just sort of talk about that.
All right. Well, the factual part of it is that Paramount has been in the process of merging with Skydance for a year or so now. They've been arguing, the details of that merger, and the FCC had started resisting that deal going through. I am not 100% sure what the original reasons given were. The usual statement there when you stop a merger is simply that it's going to turn into a monopoly situation. People are going to be limited, and because of that, we can't allow this merger to go forward. If there's not some financial question, it's usually going to be about monopolies. And that would be quite a bit of media power uh, between Skydance and Paramount. That eats up something like 60% of local media stations and programming. I'll have to look back on the exact number there. I don't have it immediately at hand. Um, but it's a chunk. I would say it's actually between 60 and 70% is the number that I saw. Um, right at the beginning of this year, when Trump became president, the FCC slid through Trump talking about how much he dislikes Colbert, and the FCC basically came in and if you'll take Stephen Colbert's word for it, that ending his show would grease the wheels for that merger to go through, despite the potential monopoly issues. So Stephen Colbert's show has been canceled. His last episode is going to be in May, and now we're dealing with the FCC and Trump interfering directly with the programming of the show. In that, here in the last week, Colbert was going to interview James Tallarico, a representative from Texas, who has been very vocal, not so much about being anti-Trump or pro-Trump, but he's very clear that certain policies are just anti-constitutional, anti-American, illegal, unreasonable.
Yes.
Regardless of what party you're in, you should be able to see that. And I agree. I have yet to see a video of his statements in the State House that aren't very, very reasonable and rational. So he was supposed to be interviewed by Colbert, and the FCC went to CBS and said, we don't want this to be aired. And CBS happily complied, told Colbert that he could not have the man on the show, could not reference the man in any way, couldn't even tell people that he couldn't have him on the show, that he wanted to have him on the show. And Colbert went on the air and immediately let everybody know that's what they said to me, and fuck them. There have been rumblings that I've seen on social media, and that's the rumor part, that Colbert is initiating a lawsuit against Trump and the FCC. No way to know that that is true, but a $750 million lawsuit would be very entertaining to see in action. Either way, Colbert has, his time is short, and he clearly is beyond the part where he's supposed to care about anybody else's preferences, leanings. I mean, as an on-air personality, he has a lot of rules he has to work under, and he does an excellent job of staying within the fence of those rules. And he clearly has decided that the fence is no longer for his safety, for the well-being of the studio, for the well-being of the people. It is literally just there to hold down dissenting voices. And so he's jumped the fence, and he's running wild, kicking stall doors down and breaking stuff out. He's doing what needs to be done. He is doing what needs to
And
be done.
that's what works, isn't it? It's what works if artists and media and media artists are going to survive if our democracy is going to survive, they have to speak out, and they're doing that. So Stephen Colbert is speaking out. Renee Good was speaking out. We're speaking out. This is
Well,
what
that
makes
depends on how you look at it, because in the end, oh, wait a minute.
we had a little blip
Okay,
there.
sorry, we had a little glitch on my side there. Just a moment. All right, so and that depends on how you're seeing it, because the basic concern that a studio might have, a studio director might have, a studio head might have, is that by speaking out, you are putting a target on your studio. You're putting a target on your show. You're
Yes.
putting a target on the people that have to get in front of the camera and speak. Some
But
people
isn't
are going to
that
run from that.
sure?
Because
And
you know it's not, authoritarians do not allow you to just stand up and talk and trash talk them, no matter how true or untrue it is. You're not going to get to just run with that particular ball. And Trump has repeatedly shown that he will attack people who speak in ways that he does not like, whether or not it is true. And the messed up part is that it always seems to be true. It's so, and I've never understood why people feel the need to sensationalize anything he does or to tell lies about him. The truth is more than sufficient. It always has been. The man is reprehensible, immoral, amoral. He's flawed and wrong, and he abuses power at every turn. It doesn't take much to destabilize someone like that.
so the risk, of course, to a network is exactly what you say. Their employees, their media personalities become targets. The corporation itself becomes a target.
Yes.
And yet it's still our responsibility. And it's easy for me to say, we have a little show here. We don't have a huge audience. We have a tiny audience. And, you know, what do we risk? A multi-billion-dollar corporation risks a lot. But a multi-billion-dollar corporation also reaps a lot from living in a democracy, and it's their responsibility to take the heat. Just like it's my responsibility to take the heat if we get. I wish we would get some heat. You know, it's like, no, I don't. Don't wish that. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but that's still part of the point. You and I taking heat individually is on a whole other, you know, the studio risks people losing their jobs. It's less likely they're going to get dragged out of their bed in the middle of the night, thrown in a cell, beaten, detained at length. They could come for you or me with
Not yet.
very little. Oh no, absolutely yet. Absolutely yet. That is the nature of, you know, this is why they go after protesters. You know, you stand outside and you say out loud what you're doing is wrong. So they just grab random protesters. They're not doing anything wrong. They're just one person out of several thousand, several hundred, a dozen, standing out there voicing their opinion. They grab one. They grab another one. They wait a week. They grab one more. Anything that makes people less likely to stand up and be heard. And it would take nothing for them to put us on a list and just look for a reason.
We may be on a list. We may have, if they had the time. I mean, well, look at, so back to Renee Good. She's backing her car away from the ICE officers. And she tells the ICE officers, I'm not mad at you. The ICE officer curses her and calls her, what, a fucking bitch, something like that. Curses her out.
Well, that's after. That's when he's walking away. And, you know, so the conflict there is she has three officers, at least two of them giving conflicting instructions, one saying get out of the car, one saying move through. She's trying to move through, and the officer claims that she was trying to run him over. One shot through the windshield as he's stepping around her car, two more through the side window as her car is losing control because he has shot her. And then the car crashes, and then he goes to the car, checks on her, and it's as he's coming back that he calls her a fucking bitch. So,
so he's personally involved emotionally, understandably, because he's in a conflict with the public. But that seems to have gone part of the motivation for him shooting, you know, that it seems like. We don't know. Hopefully, a court of law will someday decide that. But we know that Trump takes these things very personally. When Colbert was going to have Tallarico on, he apparently took that very personally, and then reacts like dictators do. I mean, that's what Stalin used to do. Stalin, and he wouldn't just send the bureaucracy after you. You know, he would send the secret police after you, and Beria would disappear you. You know that. Remember Beria?
Yeah.
He's quite a fellow. He was one of the henchmen of Stalin. It's what totalitarian dictatorships do. I don't see any sign of using secret police to go out and purposely murder people yet, but they're putting people in situations where people have been murdered now, where we've seen two people be murdered, and that's, I don't know, with apparently not being worried about it at all, being fine with it, you know,
Well,
from the
and
federal government's point of view.
So I would disagree. The the idea that there's been 2 U.S. citizens murdered. We've also got tens of thousands of, thousands. We've got thousands of immigrants, undocumented, documented, people who say they are citizens, who, you know, they're here legally on their green card or whatever their visa pass is. People who say they're citizens but don't necessarily have the paperwork immediately at hand. There are a lot of people that we just don't know where they are anymore. And those people, and if they are dead, they have surely been murdered by the actions of this administration, in no differently than if the administration had just put a gun to their head and pulled the trigger. There was a discussion had 3-ish, 4-ish months ago over the summer. There was a discussion being had over the summer about the number of women who have been incarcerated and just nobody knows what happened to them anymore. They're just gone. And in the wake of, again, in his first term, the number of children that just disappeared. And now in his second term, especially with these Epstein issues, the number of women who have just vanished. And again, the number of people who've been shipped out of the country and nobody's heard from them since. There are a lot of people being silenced. And that's, and you know, just the fact that it hasn't happened to a high profile individual yet doesn't mean they're not doing it.
Yes.
And attempting to silence Colbert and Tallarico is it's a step in that direction. He already has the studio. He already has CBS on one knee, and this was an attempt to get them on both knees. And not only do I want that show canceled, but now I'm going to start trying to control your programming on that. And if I've got both of those things, I can tell you what shows to cancel. I can tell you what to put on the air. Your whole studio belongs to me now.
When you're talking about, I hadn't thought of that, of the women and the children that have just disappeared, but does that remind you of Argentina and Chile during the military dictatorships there, where tens of thousands of people just one day, they were gone. You never, that is a chilling thought. They just went somewhere. You know, we assume that all these women and children just went back to their countries of origin. Do we know that? I don't know that. I don't know what happens. They don't have apparently any recourse. If they don't have any recourse in the courts, if they're not allowed to see their attorneys, if they're not allowed to challenge this, we have no idea what we do with them. They just, I mean, we knew in high profile cases, they called them Venezuelan gang members and sent them to Salvador, was it, to go to that maximum security prison there. And most of them were not gang related at all.
No.
So we know, or that we can send them to some country that they have no connection to, like in Africa. It's kind of chilling, isn't it?
Well, and it goes back to, you know, the idea that you have to resist, you have to protest.
Yeah.
They have to know that we see what is happening, we don't agree with what is happening, and if we can fix it at our level, we're gonna fix it at our level. They, you know, the thing I'm seeing a lot of right now, and just because it's local, that's why I'm seeing it. We just went through 2 weeks of students walking out of their schools in protest, and there's basically
In
two
Arkansas?
flavors. Yes,
In
well,
Arkansas?
it was national, but it was happening
National?
here in
Okay.
Arkansas as well.
Yeah.
And it really comes in two flavors. People who say these are children, they have no idea what they're doing. This is just an excuse to get out of school. They're being pushed into this. This is radicalization by their teachers. Blah blah blah. And then you have people over here saying, you know, no, this is them voicing their opinion, and they're allowed to do that. And you know, maybe there's a penalty, but we all know that, you know, privileges, or not privileges, rights come with responsibilities, and if this is how they choose to exercise it, that's just how that works. But the idea that on that right side, they want to insist that these children have no understanding of what's going on around them. They have no understanding of the law. They have no understanding of the Constitution. Anything they say or do is just an attempt to get out of school. I will give them that there are absolutely kids in that group. If 100 kids walk out of school, I would not really be amazed if 75 of them really didn't understand that it was just this, like, what, we get to leave, we're leaving school, oh yeah, I'm with you. But even if it was 99 of them, the one kid that knows what's going on, that understands and needs to be heard, it is still their constitutional right to do so. So it, you know, it's 99 to 1, 1 to 99, one way or the other.
So
You cannot take
if
people's rights away.
we look around and we see there are people standing up, young people are standing up.
They are.
Colbert stood up. And what Colbert did was he just moved over to YouTube. And how many views do we have? He interviewed Tallarico on YouTube, and I think he got 5 million views. 5 million people went to go see it. Yeah. So, and the problem with dictators, authoritarians is it's just, if they don't completely suppress dissent, if they don't, Stalin was very good at that. He pretty much completely suppressed it. But Trump is fairly ineffective in most everything he does, except he's very good at disruption. He's excellent at causing chaos in organizations all around him and among people. But he doesn't really, I want to apologize for him that he's not better at suppressing dissent, because there's Tallarico right there on YouTube. I encourage you all to go watch it if you haven't watched it. And he's running against a wonderful black woman in the Texas Senate race, Jasmine Crockett, another excellent voice who
Yes.
talks truth to power. She's just so smart and so capable. And it's such a tribute to the Democrats that they've got two people like this running against each other. It's okay. Each of them have a wonderful place in the American democracy and in the Democratic Party. I hope they stay and keep fighting. But you can go see James there. So people are speaking out, and so far they haven't stopped it. I mean, you really have to look for somebody like Stalin. Maybe Mr. Trump, you could study Stalin a little more and learn how to really do it right. You shut down all the media outlets, and the only thing that is allowed to broadcast anything is a state-run television run by you. Execute the artists, all that stuff that Stalinists do. He's failed to do. I'm sorry, in so many ways, he's a failure. And
Run television.
maybe if he got some, some help, he could learn how to be a better dictator. Isn't there a show on how to be a dictator on Netflix or something? You might look that one up. In the meantime, let's see what some of the artists are doing about. Do we have that clip? We're going to try to actually show a clip. This is pushing our technological ability here. We're going to show a clip about a performance art piece in Washington, D.C. And I don't have the name of the group. But let's show the whole thing if we can. Or whatever you got, Mitch. What do you got?
All right. So
And this is about Renee Good and about Alex.
it looks like the name of the group is. Oh, no. This is that is not the name of the group. That is part of the source of the video that we were seeing. This is being produced from Euronews out of the European Union. It does not, my information does not include the name of the dance troupe that we are about to see here. But let's see what we've got.
I'll see if I can find the name here.
All right, and well, that would not be it. What are we missing? There we are.
So this is at the Kennedy Center.
No, this is not the Kennedy Center. This is at the reflecting pool on the mall.
The reflective pool. Looks like there's another one at the Kennedy Center. Kennedy Center, same bunch though, same performance. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Sorry, having a little technical difficulty getting this to come up. 1 second. Let me take another shot at it.
So these are former Broadway and Kennedy Center dancers that did this. Reenacting the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal officers in Minneapolis.
Oh, goodness. It is toying with me. So right at the moment, having 3 people on is considerably different to it than having just one person.
Now we can edit through this.
We'll edit around. 1 second here.
Apparently the dancers don't have a name.
Well, that is odd.
Not yet.
What am I doing wrong? Everything works in rehearsal, nothing works at the performance.
There we go.
This is where we need to be. Why is it not coming up that way? Wrong positions here.
She could fly.
Got the audio, but not the video.
I'm sorry, did you say you have no audio?
We have only audio,
Only audio?
no video.
She could fly.
Hmm. All right, I apologize. This worked perfectly when it was just me on the screen. It is focusing on the
Why don't
wrong
you-
portions when we try to bring it up with both of us on the screen. It's
Well,
not.
why don't you cut one of us off the screen?
I can't do that without throwing you out, sir.
Well,
One of
throw
us has
me
to
out
leave
and
to
show the
lose
video.
one of us.
Throw me out and show the video.
Can't
bring
do
you
that
back
because then I
in.
have to invite you back, which defeats the function. All right, new toys. All right, so we'll just have to move on because this is
not
effectively
working.
we're toying with this in the moment, and we'll have to be thankful that we only have one viewer who is very forgiving right at this
So we'll
exact
cut
moment.
out that section. Okay, so let me just go to, so are you going to try to cut in that later, or what do you think? Is it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the best way to handle that is. Let's assume for the moment that I can splice it in, but honestly, I don't even know how that would work. I don't know how to insert in the middle of the video without breaking it. And anytime you break the video to insert something, it comes back very awkwardly. So it's not that I can't do it, it's that I don't know how to do it and make it look right. I'm gonna have to pull someone on, record with just the two of us, and figure out why it is making your screen the main screen when clearly the shared screen is supposed to be the central one, and how to swap them across each other, because when it's just me in the video, it moved me to the side and brought the video to the fore. And then when it's the two of us, it moves me and the video to the side and brings you to the fore, and I don't know why.
Okay. So shall I acknowledge that we don't have the video then, or what should we, or just?
Honestly, let's just do a version. Let's just skip over it. I think we have enough lead in that I can insert it, and let's just pretend that we saw it in the way that we want to. And if I can insert it, I can insert it. And if I can't, I'll edit around the whole issue.
Okay, so let's begin now. When I go 1, 2, 3, okay? Here we go. 1 and a 2 and a 3. So hopefully you will see the the video of the dancers from the Kennedy Center. Kennedy Center.
We'll insert the video. Well, at the very least, we'll insert the link for that.
Yeah, well, and you can find the link.
Oh, I have
if
the
we don't
link. I'm literally, I have the video right here in front of me. It's just an issue of properly showing
Right.
it to the audience.
Yeah, so take a look at the link. These are dancers from the Kennedy Center who did the presentation outside the Kennedy Center until security stopped them. Then they moved to the mall, to the Washington Mall, the historic area of Washington, and did the dance there. And it's a reenactment of the shooting of Renee Good and Alex Pretty. And it shows what art can do. It's more powerful than words in many ways, as you see these young people moving their bodies in such a way to dramatize what happened and what's happening in the national psyche about this. If we think of the most powerful art form of all was the live footage of this happening, shot on cell phones, both of Renee being shot and Alex being shot. There is multiple individual people using their creative abilities to record and post just exactly what happened. And that moved a nation and moved apparently the government to remove this ICE surge from Minneapolis. I mean, it's not over now. That's over at least, or it's reduced. But it'll soon be coming to a city near you, I'm sure. It's just a matter of time. So I think that's an example of where an art form worked. These individual cameras, these observers. Then we have the follow-up of the dancers. We have Stephen Colbert speaking out in his own way. James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett running for office. These are all people who are speaking out and openly expressing themselves and taking the risk to do so. Because being a politician right now is not very safe. As Trump found out, somebody tried twice to kill him. And who else has been shot at this year? You know?
Well, not just an issue of being shot at. We did have a Minnesota State House representative killed last year, or actually that was earlier. Well, no, that was last year. We're in 2026. We did have that happen last year in Minnesota. Another shot, one killed, along with their spouse and their dog. I don't, right off the top of my head, I'm not recalling any other political shootings in the context of anyone going after a named politician. There have been people attacked outside of protesters. We are seeing a rise in attacks against people at the top, people going after executives. I'm going to have to search for the name here, but there was the issue of the attack in New York at the BlackRock at their tower. Manhattan. It was a shooting in Manhattan. 4 people killed in a mass shooting at Midtown Manhattan office tower. Gunman with history of mental illness kills 4. The victims included a security guard, a Blackstone executive, an NYPD officer, and an employee. And okay, so where I'm looking at this now, this is the first time I've seen anyone include BlackRock executive among the dead, or even mentioning that BlackRock as a location was involved. I actually found that out from a friend of mine who lives in Manhattan, who mentioned that the building that was attacked was actually BlackRock, who So the bigger picture there becomes that the mentally ill person that they want to, sorry, my air quotes are outside frame, the mentally ill person that they want to say perform this attack is actually a man who lost his home to the mortgage issues that BlackRock is helping create. They continue to suck up and absorb housing across this country. And what they tried to say was he had CTE, he had head trauma from his either his days in the military or his days playing sports, and he was irrational and erratic, and that blah blah blah, and that led to the attack. But people who know him know that he was not irrational, he was not unstable, and that this and it very much looks like this attack was in the same way that Mr. Mangione went after the insurance companies. That was this man going after the mortgage industry, the housing industry, to let the people know that if you're going to be out here stealing our homes from us, you might get a visit.
This is the weakness of American democracy and American culture, is we undermine our very democracy with violence, and it's always been that way. There has always been violence, and Trump was the victim of violence within our country. I mean, we could say, oh, his policy somehow brought that on. I don't know. I think that there's always been violence against people who speak out, and he speaks out. I mean, let's face it, Trump practices freedom of speech. He gets to say anything he wants, and he says it all the time, over and over again. You can't get off the airways, can't get on the airways without finding him having something to say. So he's speaking his mind, and so there is a general threat to free speech and to democracy from violence in America. Let's face it.
Well, I'm going to disagree again. There's a gap in what you're saying.
Wait a minute. We don't have free speech here.
Well,
Who said we have free speech on this broadcast? Go for it.
well, no. So I'm going to rebel. And while I still have control of the mic, I'm going to scream into the void.
Go for it.
There's a point after which, if you're, it's the equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded theater. If the policies that your political stance advocates are openly and actively not just unfortunate, but dangerous, deadly to people, the fact that they react to that violent rhetoric is not the same thing as a political weakness wherein, oh, you're saying things I don't like and it makes me uncomfortable and I have to find a way to shut you up. If your policies say you as a human being you don't have the same rights as other human beings, you don't have the same ability to speak as other human beings, if their policies dehumanize you, you should be reacting. And if the only way to stop them is to act violently, then that may be just what has to happen. It's the same context as, it's okay to punch a Nazi. It is 100% okay, in my opinion, to punch any Nazi. If you're walking down the street with your swastika and you're getting pelted every step, you bought that. Because the rhetoric of the Nazis says if you are anyone in one of these dozens of categories, as long as you are not blonde enough, blue-eyed enough, and part of our party, we can do anything we want to you. Everyone else is required to stop that. They are required to push those people down and shut them out because their goal is to do the same to you. And they're relying on you to be reasonable. There's 10 reasonable people standing in a row going, this isn't right. Bang! Now there's 9 reasonable people standing in a row. We really don't agree with what you just did to that other guy. Bang! Now there's 8 reasonable people in a row. Hey, man, you got to stop shooting us. Bang! Now there's 7. You cannot do that. You cannot face that sort of existential violence with rationality.
That's the weakness of liberal democracy, isn't it? we want to talk while the other person is using a gun, or they're advocating violence to overthrow the very system that we're supporting. Now, I would push back on what you're saying, that as soon as we justify violence against our opponents, then liberal democracy is dead. Now we have a civil war is what we have. We're able to fight each other. It's I would make the argument, do I believe it? Let's see. I'll make the argument anyway, that
Okay.
if we resort to violence, we undermine the very system we're trying to promote. And so we end up in civil war and street violence, and it justifies further the actions of a tyrant or an authoritarian party like that Trump represents right now. It justifies it. And okay, now I'm going to argue against myself, which is yes, and that makes liberal democracy extraordinarily weak in the face of fascism. And if I look back on what the generation before me did, they finally, after Hitler had overrun Europe, finally decided they could not negotiate with Hitler. They could not compromise with him. They couldn't give him a little more territory. Why? Because he already had it all. He already had everything but Great Britain. And we finally entered the war on the side of democracy against fascism, and we used unrelenting violence to stop that amazing evil that was going on in Europe. So I'm going to go the other side. Yeah, are we going to sit still and be knocked off one by one? Of course, that's not happening right now. That's the most important thing. It could happen. It's the logical extension of fascism, but it's not happening now.
Well, I don't know if you're talking about the Jimmy Kimmels and the Stephen Colberts of the world. If you're talking about the Renee Goods, it is already happening. It's just happening on a very low, quiet scale. And the people who are speaking out are being forced to they're being given reason to fear.
Yeah. Well, I hope our huge audience will engage in this on this. What do you think about the issue of, I think we're talking about beyond expression of words and of an artistic expression. We're talking about violence now as a means to deal with fascism or to deal with authoritarian systems. See, I'm just picturing, what if Trump had been killed? Look what happened when Charlie Kirk was murdered. We'd forgotten Charlie Kirk, you know. It becomes a reason for authoritarians they become perfectly justified in using violence too. And the more violent they get,
you say perfectly
the more
justified
violent
using
the opposition gets. Yeah.
you say perfectly justified in using violence when they're already using violence. That's not that we didn't have to justify it for them. They were already doing it, and then it got used on them. And Charlie Kirk is a perfect example of that. Charlie Kirk is more than happy to say that, hey, if you have guns, there's going to be violence, and political violence is a thing that happens. And bang, and we still haven't even established who killed him or why. That whole thing is so up in the air. Everything about his death could not have been more staged. Okay, so now we got tinfoil hats in the game. Um, but you know, his death, in many ways, he orchestrated the situation that led to his death. And let me be clear, I see a lot of, one of the arguments we had early on was as it's germane to our show, not you and I had, but you know, in general, the idea that Kirk wasn't homophobic, that he wasn't anti-gay. People will generally say he never said that. You cannot point at a time when he said anything negative about gay people. And at some point he more than and I've actually seen footage where he said that gay people have a place in the tent. Okay, 100%. Like I said, I've seen it. Here's a problem with that. He is the chief executive of TP USA, Turning Point USA, which is an organization that in Africa actively gives money to state organizations to see them write laws against gay people across the LGBTQ spectrum, with the intent of getting the activities that make them different, to get them labeled for a death sentence. They're actively seeking that in another country. So you can't say that he's the top executive of a country that wants to see gay people killed. He's just doing it in another country, but he's not anti-gay. You can't do it. That is a level of gymnastics that require you to just be stupid, willfully stupid.
Again, going back to the issue of violence, though, it's like we have not seen yet. I'm not saying we couldn't, and that we might, but we haven't seen the level of violence, anything like what the Nazis were able to do during the Weimar Republic, or
Right.
what the Bolsheviks did during the Russian Revolution. We haven't seen anything like that.
Right,
And-
but you
and
have to
one
lay
of
the
the
groundwork. You have to lay the groundwork, and he is laying the groundwork.
It's just, my argument is that if we go quickly to violence, we increase the whole temperature of discourse, where it becomes everybody gives up and just goes and gets their pieces, and starts shooting at each other, which
But the
which
same-
happened during the.
But the same is
During
true
the
if you
Civil
are
War.
too slow to start resisting. By the time you get to
True.
a point where you're resisting, they already control all the tools. And that's what happened with Hitler. By the time people realized, oh, he's not even trying to play. The brown shirts are already in the streets rounding people up without the proper and full state enforcement, but they're still in charge because they're Hitler's boys and no one's going to get in their way, because getting in their way means you get thrown in the wagon along with the guy they came to get, because they could
Or
do
you get-
that. No different than
Yeah, or
ICE
you can
agents
get
going,
killed.
we came here for this guy. Not even we came here for this guy. They're just snatching people off the street at random. And then when he looks brown enough, let's get him. And then when somebody else steps in and goes, hey man, get your hands off him, he's a US citizen, they grab that guy too. At some point you have to stop and say, what you're doing is wrong, and we're just not going to let you do it.
And it doesn't take the majority of people being behind the brown shirts. It doesn't take the majority of people being behind this authoritarian government to make it possible for them to take over. Hitler's party, the National Socialists, never garnered more than 38% of the vote
Right.
in election. So what percentage of our people are authoritarian? You wonder.
And from our comment section, KPG Hardy 25, they are already using violence against the people that they disagree with, the people who are them. We are further down the road than we like to admit.
Yes.
And othering is a thing that we do quite well in this country. If we do not like what you stand for, we find a way to make you something else. I actually had an argument this weekend with a family member. It was basically just it was a religious disagreement, where there was just a tone of this person's religion is laughable because they believe this and they believe that. And my position on it was just, okay, but how is that any different than your religion? You believe this and you believe that. How is that less ridiculous than what they believe? Everybody believes some stuff, you know. It's prove any of it. There are certainly parts of the Bible and parts of all religions that have some basis in traceable history, but at some point you get to the part where faith comes into the game. I have faith that these things occurred. I have faith that this is the right road. I do not need proof because I have faith, and that is why, you know, and that is fine. But you have to let other people live their lives, and that is supposed to be the strength of a liberal democracy. We all come together. We all believe as we believe, and we work together so that everybody continues getting what they want in a framework that limits us with rationality, not with fear or anger or money. Everybody's options are the same.
And we let them live their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
We leave people alone. That is the, of course, that one, I'm just finding myself taking the other arguments that I've heard, that many in the MAGA movement felt that liberal democracy was not letting them alone, was requiring them to be tolerant of other people, was and white privilege was that you didn't have to tolerate other people. That was allowed to live in our country for hundreds of years, where you didn't have to tolerate someone that was of a lower income. You didn't have to tolerate somebody with a different skin color, and you didn't have to tolerate a non-Christian. Those were all maybe areas of pride. You didn't have to tolerate, for sure, them homosexuals. You didn't have to tolerate anybody but white, heterosexual, well, and he was even Protestant at one time, males. You know, that was the thing.
Yeah, and that is still part of that. That is still part of that line of 10 guys that is currently down to 7 guys. At some point, you always hear them say that you're not being tolerant of my intolerance. You say you're all about tolerance, but you're not being tolerant of my intolerance. Get the fuck away from me with that. You know, they rely on us to be rational while they are being violent.
Exactly. Yeah. And black folks have been talking about this for a long time and it was in Los Angeles. It's been all over the country, where the police, where a black man is in danger from the police in a big city. And it's true in many big cities still. It's like, and that's you, and black men are getting killed like that. We saw it in many interesting. George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis. You know, this bastion of supposedly liberal values. 3 people are killed under crazy circumstances that really look like murder. So.
Right. And it's, you know, and it's, I don't know if I should say it's sad or it's fortunate. This is one of those few things that I should be able to speak to that I can't. I have led a very fortunate life. I've seen very, very little racial violence or racism in general directed at me. Historically within my family, I've seen it. Historically within my family, I know it exists. Historically within my family, we've lost a lot to it in lockstep with the historic narrative. I personally have not, so it's hard to address it anything but academically, which, you know, again, I don't know if I should feel fortunate that is the case, or unfortunate that I haven't been close enough to the line to stand it.
Or maybe we can just give thanks that one person avoided it. Isn't that, I mean, that one black person didn't have to go through that. And I think there are many LGBTQ people that have not. I mean, as long as I stayed in the closet, I didn't go through it. And even as I came out, very little happened to me. Well, it was surprising how little happened as I began to speak out and be more open. So there is a whole section of our country that simply isn't into not living and letting others live. You know, there's a whole bunch of people that just want everyone to get along as well as they can, and if we can't get along, we just leave each other alone. You know, there's a whole, and I believe it's the majority of Americans want that, but it only takes 38%, as we know in the Weimar Republic, to bring in a fascist person who will advocate violence. And we had 49% of the electorate bring in a highly authoritarian person who frequently acts as a fascist. And we are endangered. And American democracy is endangered. And as much as I see some, because I'm a very optimistic person, I always look for the positive. I do see some signs that all of the speaking out and the demonstrations are beginning to have an effect, which reminds me to remind all of you that March 28th is the nationwide No Kings protest. So that's coming up in a month. I hope all of you will go to that and peacefully do your thing. Anything you want to say, Mitch, about what you would like to see happen?
Like to see happen?
Yes. What do you want people to do? What do you want our vast viewership to do?
I think the gap is that despite the conversation that we've just had, all the violence that has been directed at Republicans and all the violence that has been directed at Trump have actually come from Republicans. Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, Republicans in general. 3 attempts on his life, or are we up to 4? Because there was another one. There was an assault on Mar-a-Lago last night.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah. Okay, in which someone was killed. The reports on that say that kid came from a Trump supporting family. Obviously, his family supporting Trump isn't the same thing as him supporting Trump, so you know that's a little sketchy. But if we're at 3 of 4 attempts, then we are at 2 of 3 attempts coming out of his own camp, and we still have 1 that's open to a lot of question. So although that kid also came from a Trump family, and the rest of the math is just weird, and you know whether or not
the boy that was killed on the roof after shooting.
Yeah, the boy who was killed on the roof. So you know who rather the boy who took the shot from the roof. Oh well, you know what? Never mind. I'm sorry. That is that was Charlie Kirk. So I shouldn't even be including him. There have been 3 attacks on Trump's life or his property, and all 3 of those people came from MAGA, Trump supporters, and the Republican Party. So their violent tendency is the violent tendency that we still have to be concerned with. The incidences where you can say our side of the line has gotten uppity is when they are in direct conflict with people who are violating other people's rights. If ICE is out on the streets snatching people and they stand up and go, hey, let that person alone, you have no right to touch them, that's just people saying there are laws and you're not acting in cohesion with them. And everyone should do that. Everyone should do that. So I guess if I'm asking anybody to do anything, it's to stand the line of the Constitution and the laws that we have handed down based on it. And if that puts us in direct conflict with federal forces, then so be it.
We want to thank everybody for listening and watching and thinking along with us and having your own opinions and speaking out and taking action. And take action that will keep you safe and also keep your community safe, whatever you're going to do. If you want to read some of our work, take a look at the movie Love and Country. Mitch was in it. I helped produce it and direct it. It's on Tubi and Amazon. You can also get my book, Love and Country, which tells the background of these characters that are in the movie. It's out from Northampton Press. And we thank you. Please subscribe and like if you've taken the time to stop by.
Bye, everybody.
Bye for now.